go. Welcome. Wednesday, October 31st. Halloween, I guess. Not that that really matters to me whatsoever, besides the names of the contests on FanDuel and DraftKings being Halloween themed. Got a good slate here. 7-gamer. Interesting games in the late spot. It's going to be weird for scoring a 7:30 game, 3 8 o'clock games, and then 3 10:30 games. So you're just going to kind of sit around and wait until midnight to find out if anything went well. Adam, what's going on? How was your Tuesday?
It was annoying. Got some stuff right, got a lot of shit wrong. So looking forward to getting going again today. What about you?
I love the NBA right now. It's the exact opposite feeling I get from baseball. Even when I had an okay day in baseball, I didn't wake up thinking, can't wait to get back at this. And now it's just like, I can't wait, more basketball. I can't get enough.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's just I don't know. I'm having a lot more fun with it than I was with baseball.
I'm having a blast, and I think that having such a poor time in the NFL is also helping, because I find that sport to be just downright infuriating.
Yeah, definitely.
Little housekeeping: like and subscribe. I don't like to push it too hard, but just do that. It helps us. The likes have been fantastic on these videos, so greatly appreciate that. That's not the right promo code because I changed it yesterday for the process show. You want to use the code NBA Strategy, 7-day free trial to any package at awesemo.com, including now the Fantasy Cruncher packages. So check that out. I did a Fantasy Cruncher intro video yesterday. If you've never used it, or if you're trying to use it and don't know what you're doing, that'll be a good step one. We'll be doing more Fantasy Cruncher and other type intro videos over the next couple weeks, so check that stuff out.
All the people that DM me on Twitter asking about Fantasy Cruncher, I know what the hell I'm doing. Go watch that.
Yeah, there you go. This is how you copy in projections. This is what you change for uniques, randomness, high level stuff. Just this will get you to be able to click create and have decent lineups come out. 7 games, and we're probably going to talk for 4 hours. So you ready to start?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it. First game up on the docket, Brooklyn Nets, Detroit Pistons. Not great. 108.25 for the Nets, 105.75 implied total for the Pistons. This is crazy. I can't believe the Nets are favored by a couple points against the Pistons. I don't see them as equal teams. It's weird. You would definitely draft Drummond and Blake before you got to any Nets, right? If you were just picking a team out of these guys.
Yeah, the only guy that I think would be even in the conversation would be LeVert.
Right. And I can't imagine anybody taking LeVert before they took Blake or Drummond.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's just crazy.
I think it's that the rest of the Pistons are just so bad.
They are. Not a lot of love for Reggie Jackson, Ish Smith, Stanley Johnson. John Lure's back, finally. I forgot he was in the league. Welcome back, John Lure. We'll start on the Brooklyn side. I didn't get a ton of Brooklyn on my first crunch. That's not terribly surprising. This is between this game and the Knicks-Pacers game. They're pretty clearly the two least appealing games, or at least what I think is the least appealing games of the slate. Karis LeVert's price on DraftKings, though, is $6,000, and I think that's kind of appealing. What do you think about LeVert?
Yeah, I like that price tag. Haven't run my initial crunch yet, in the process of doing that. But yeah, I mean, $6K for LeVert. He's still out there doing everything. D'Angelo Russell talked about how they've really been playing well together this year and playing off one another, which is nice to see because last year they kind of just capped each other's production. So yeah, I'm with you on this not being that appealing of a game, but I don't know. I have spots that actually make a lot of sense to me. LeVert being one that I think is a good play, but also both of these teams will run 2-point guard lineups a lot. And so I think that guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, I think, is going to be a value play that goes completely overlooked today. But he's 4,800 on DraftKings with point guard, shooting guard eligibility. And we've seen him play plenty alongside Russell. And this is a spot where, assuming Detroit goes out there with Reggie Jackson and Ish Smith to close, it wouldn't be surprising at all, I don't think, to see, a Russell, Dinwiddie, LeVert closing lineup.
Yeah, my only problem with Brooklyn is that I can't really hash out what I like. Everybody's sort of priced in a similar way. Everybody, in general is playing mid-20s minutes or slightly higher. So I think Levert's a nice value. I think Russell's fine. I think Allen's fine. I think Hollis Jefferson's fine. I think Dinwiddie's fine. I just feel like there are too many pieces to like.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Brooklyn in general. Also, Alan Crabb's 3,700 on
Right.
DraftKings.
Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's like I'm not. I don't like the game. It's two of the slowest paced teams in the league, but I also wouldn't be surprised at all if I just end up with like Brooklyn pieces just mixed in the lineups because of how cheap they are and the fact that they are still, a slow paced game in 2018 is still a lot of fantasy points. So considering how cheap they are, I could see having those guys still mixed in, especially because I probably will end up projecting, Russell and Dinwiddie toward the top end of their minutes range just because of the matchup.
Do you prefer Levert or Russell? Separated by $100.
Levert. I've been higher on Levert all season long. I'm updating my spreadsheets now, but as of last time I looked, he's had the higher usage rate. He's had a much lower expected assist percentage, but still an expected assist percentage that is adequate. So I've preferred Levert by a little bit, but we also haven't really seen that blow up Russell game yet.
It's true. Yeah, I see the Nets as significantly more appealing on DraftKings. They would be a revolving door for me. I wouldn't be upset if I got anyone on my sheet from Levert down to Crab in any sort of order. A couple percentage points of all of them gets you some coverage to this game, but no one just stands out as wildly underpriced or wildly in a good matchup. It's just like a lot of, much like the Nets are in real basketball, it's just like a lot of solid.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
They're a serviceable DFS team and serviceable NBA team. I don't know. Let's take a look at the Pistons side. Andre Drummond 9,500 on FanDuel, 9,000 on DK. I'm gonna have some, but nothing crazy. I don't mind the $9,500 price point on FanDuel. Is Drummond a guy you'd be looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, I love the spot for him. One thing I did notice as I was kind of just playing around with like hand building lineups last night, just trying to get a feel for the slate. Like Drummond was one of the first guys that I tried to plug in just because I love the spot here against Brooklyn.
Sure.
But on DraftKings, the problem you run into is that you are going to have DeAndre Ayton for like 7,100 and DeAndre Jordan facing the Lakers for like 7,600. And you just kind of run into like it's a great spot for Drummond. He can go out there and throw up, 55 points and it wouldn't be surprising at all. But would you really be surprised if Jordan or Ayton at those price tags go for like 50? And that's kind of where I just kept like I'd get a lineup with Drummond done, and then it would just be like, okay, well, if I just drop $2,000, I can make a much better lineup.
Yeah, it is a tough spot there. If we want to talk about not tough spots, well, at least on one site, Blake Griffin is $9,400 on DraftKings. He's $8,800 on FanDuel. So analysis here has to be given very specifically to site. I would not be playing Blake Griffin at 9,400 on DraftKings. I will be playing Blake Griffin at 8,800 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule him out on DraftKings. I mean, I haven't crunched yet, but like he's just got like a 30% usage rate this year. He has an expected assist percentage up in the mid-20s. He's still, I think, in a good spot. I would prioritize Drummond in terms of, he is a little bit cheaper, and I think that they'll end up projecting similarly. But Griffin having forward eligibility instead of center, or in addition to center, I think will make it easier to get him in the lineups.
I just see like LaMarcus Aldridge against the Suns for $900 cheaper. I have a hard time getting there. I mean, Draymond is $6,700. That's $2,700 cheaper than Blake. I mean, even Durant's only $200 more against the Pels.
Yeah, that's true.
There's just
I love the price tag on Durant too.
There's too much around him for me to want to pay up in a situation where he would be an equivalent like 10-4 guy on FanDuel if the pricing is correct. And I would never be playing Blake Griffin above 10K unless it's February now and he's been going nuts for 3 months.
Right. Yeah.
So I can't do it. But I will do it on FanDuel. Let's be clear here. Anything else from the Pistons side? We've got this Jackson Smith combo in the backcourt that's wholly unappealing. I'll have some ish, but whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ish is like 4,400 on DraftKings, and for the same reason that I think Dinwiddie's appealing, I think Ish is appealing because we've seen them play the 2-point guard lineup plenty, and this is a spot where I fully expect that to happen. So I think that's an appealing price tag for a guy that probably will play about 30 minutes.
I have him in for 26 only right now, but I did get 9% on my first crunch, so it wouldn't take much for me to get like really heavy on the Ish with just very simple tweaks. Anybody else here? I don't really have any interest in trying to figure out if Stanley Johnson's going to show up or not.
Right. I mean, I think if I had to pick someone, it would be going to like Reggie Bullock because the minutes should be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, never a guy that I'm prioritizing.
No, Reggie Bullock 4K on DK, 4,300 on FanDuel. Like if he shows up as a punt, it's cool, but no volume. It's not. This is not the game of all the games on the slate. It's just not the one. What's the total? 214. Meanwhile, we have totals of. Going on with my computer. There we go. 235 in the Lakers Mavs game. 234.5 in Warriors Pels. That's just so much higher than this garbage.
Yeah. It's really weird too. I think we've mentioned it before how like there are so many teams obviously playing at a really fast pace, but then if you look at the teams that are playing slow, some of them are the teams that like you think of as being fast. You know, Brooklyn being one of them.
Yeah,
4th slowest team in the NBA this season.
That is just nuts. Where do they rank in my pace?
But
I have them ranked 22nd in my pace numbers right now. So that seems about right. I would expect them to be faster. They've been really slow. They're inching their way towards the midpoint.
Yeah.
I think this is the record for getting through a game. I don't have anything else to say about Pistons and Nets now.
Yeah, no, that's what happens when the Nets play the Pistons.
I guess. And that's just like, it's a game that I wouldn't want to watch. I think I mentioned this with you. Both teams are like dark colored teams, so it seems like a slow, plodding, boring game.
Yeah. Definite correlation between jersey color and pace.
Exact. Speaking of jersey color, I don't know how much you pay attention to jerseys and stuff. Did you see the new Sixers jerseys that got dropped yesterday?
I did not.
They are fantastic. All gray. They don't have any text on the front.
Actually, I think I did see. I think I saw it on Twitter. Yeah,
they look damn good. So I'm a bit of a jersey file. So I'm a big fan of the new Sixers. Like I forget what they call them. There's like a specific term for like the third jerseys that they use now.
City jersey, right?
The what?
Was it their city jersey?
Yeah,
is that?
I think that's what they're calling them. I don't know. I read Zach Lowe's article from it yesterday. You should check it out. It's pretty good. Let's go to Bulls and Nuggets. 109.5 implied total for the Bulls. 117 for the Nugs. Bulls are just super duper dreadful in trying to be even remotely close to a good defense. They are second, actually, from the bottom. Only the Suns have been worse on a fantasy points per possession basis. Bulls giving up 10% more fantasy points than the average every single possession of the game. That is so bad. But we need to talk about the offense first. Zach LaVine, 8,500 on FanDuel, 7,400 on DK. I don't expect to have any LaVine. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I can't imagine wanting to get there with any sort of volume.
You said 7,400 on DraftKings?
He is.
Yeah, I don't know, that seems like a nice price. He is the entire offense. Like the guy's got a usage rate up, 32, 33%. And Denver has been good defensively this year, but I don't expect them to continue being one of the best defensive teams. I mean, I don't know. I like going to LaVine. Even like that Golden State game, I had a decent amount of him, and obviously it blew out, and so you didn't get the full potential. But it's just so hard for him to really let you down when he's, low to mid $7,000 with how involved he is in the offense.
Yeah, I wouldn't try to talk anybody out of it. Denver's defense has been phenomenal this year. Much like how the Bulls are bad, the Nuggets have been great at limiting fantasy points per possession, 7% below average. So it's a really tough spot. I don't have any problem with Levine just because he's going to get the minutes and he's going to do whatever he wants, but I just have a hard time getting there. If the Bulls do well, it's probably because of him, though. So I would say plan your lineup accordingly if you're going to play Zach LaVine.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like initially I have him projected for like around 40 DraftKings points, which is just really good for that price tag.
That's interesting. Like, how were you just being general, or is that really like where you have him?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't adjusted usage or minutes or anything, but just the baselines I'm looking at have him right around 40, 41.
Okay, because I have him at 38.4, and I would have expected a bigger gap between both of our projections. So maybe I'm just underselling him, which is certainly possible. Everybody knows that I'm a noted Zach LaVine hater. Yeah, look, no issues with it. It's a really difficult matchup, at least based on anything that's happened this year.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Jabari 7,500 on FanDuel, 6,000 on DK. I'd prefer Jabari to Levine here, just because of price on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, I like both. I would still prefer Levine to Jabari just because I think he's better and less likely to just completely suck. But yeah, I mean, I like both of them a pretty decent amount.
Okay. Anybody else on the Bulls? We've got Wendell Carter at 4,900, Justin Holiday 4,500. I mean, the whole Bulls team on DraftKings is like super cheap. I mean, Chandler Hutchison's still 3,300. Arcidiacono has been getting like weirdly too many minutes, 3,600. Are you going to anybody else on the Bulls?
Maybe like mixing guys in because the minutes should be there for guys like Hutchison and Holiday. Campaign, I think, is an interesting tournament guy. Like he obviously has sucked his last couple of games, but there's also been blowouts and a game where he just played really poorly. And you saw Ryan play most.
I like it.
Play basically the last like 18 minutes of the game. But I still just think that the plan going into any given game is for Cameron Payne to play 30 to 32 minutes. And he's just the type of guy where he's not going to be consistent and he's not all that great. So when the game after he has a big game, when everyone decides that they should be playing Cameron Payne, it's really easy to fade him. But then when you have him have, 2 bad games that you knew he's going to have, I just kind of start playing him again, and he's going to have another 35, 40-point game at some point soon.
Yeah, I knocked his minutes down. Am I overreacting? I felt
I
like
think
it
so.
was more he's not playing than anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like the game against Atlanta, he didn't appear to play well at all. He
He didn't play.
also,
They took him out 4 minutes into the third quarter, and he never saw the floor again.
yeah, he picked up his 4th foul 4 minutes into the third quarter, which is why he subbed out there, and then the second unit just went off. Like the Bulls actually took the lead. They kind of ran away with the game. But so like if you look at that one though, they closed like the second unit, and you have Arcidiacono, Felicio, Parker, and then they like Blakeney played some, Levine closed, Holiday closed. Like um, it basically they just left Arcidiacono in once they ran away with the game. But I don't think that
Yeah.
was the plan at all. Like Cameron Payne picked up his 4th foul, he left the game, and then there was just no reason for him to come back in the close.
Yeah, so when they started the fourth quarter, it was close. And then at the time where you would normally expect the starters to come back in the fourth, they went on an 11-3 run until that point, and it
Right.
essentially iced the game. But even still, like if he comes back in at that spot, what's he getting to, like 25 minutes?
Well, but he lost 4 minutes in the third quarter too because of the foul.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he lost a minute and a half at the end of the second quarter because of a foul. So, like, he was if you ignore the third foul that he picked up in the first half, he played 8.5 minutes, and this is the Atlanta game because it's easier to look at than whatever happened in the Golden State game.
Yeah, that game doesn't
But
count.
yeah, so 8.5 first quarter minutes, and then he would have played just shy of 5 second quarter minutes. So you're looking at what's that, like 14 first half minutes, basically.
Yeah. He played 4 minutes and 26 seconds in the third quarter. He played 17.8 for the whole game. So he played like 13 minutes in the first half.
But he lost a minute and a half to fouls, so like 14 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, I think anything 28 to 30 minutes is reasonable, especially because I think he has a higher ceiling. Like if he's playing well, we've seen him play, more minutes. It's not like he has an actual good backup that they care about playing.
Well, he's not really a good starter either. That's what gives me a little bit of pause. That
Right, yeah, that's why.
everybody is useless on this team outside of
Yeah,
basically Zach LaVine, Jabari, and Wendell Carter.
right. Oh yeah, I agree completely. But like with my thing with Payne is he's the perfect guy to me where I just always want to be doing the opposite of what the field is because he has an opportunity every game
Yeah.
to really outperform his price tag because of the condition of the Bulls team currently. But he's not good enough to do it consistently. So when people are like, "Oh shit, Cameron Payne scored 40 points yesterday. I have to play him." It's really easy just to not play him. But then when you have two duds, especially in spots like this where because anyone who's just like looking at game logs, they're like, "Oh, the Bulls are tired of Cameron Payne. He's not going to get those minutes." When it was a 80-point loss to the Warriors and foul trouble against the Hawks, and then just no need to come back. So I don't know. I just think that he's going to end up being way lower owned today than he should be, given the potential he has on this Bulls team.
Yeah, I just bumped his minutes up a couple. Feel comfortable there. 5,100 on FanDuel, though. There's a limit to how much I could even get. Just
Yeah, I agree.
because, I mean, what's the point?
Right. Yeah.
When he was
Definitely.
3,900, it's a much different story. But at 5,100, like Spencer Dinwiddie's $400 more. Ish Smith is $500 cheaper. I don't know. Even 700 more for Rondo at this point, who's apparently just going to keep playing. I don't
Yeah,
get it.
the Lakers are a nightmare. I wish they would get suspended again.
You and me both. Yeah, look, if I got to campaign, I'm cool with it. I'm more likely to have Chandler Hutchison. Not that they're playing the same positions or anything, but 3,800. If I want a bull, I want to punt it hard, not chill in the mid range.
Yeah, that's fair too. And Hutchison's another one that, if you look at the Atlanta game, his minutes were thrown off a lot by foul trouble. He picked up his third foul a minute and 20 seconds into the second quarter,
Yeah,
so he missed an entire stretch of playing there.
and then went for almost the entirety of the third quarter and then never played again.
Yeah.
We Blakeney, Felicio, Justin Holiday, and Arcidiacono played. Or wait, am I looking at that wrong? No. Felicio, Arcidiacono, Parker, and Justin Holiday played the entire fourth quarter. Insanity.
Yeah, and then Blakeney and Levine split the rest.
Yeah. They brought Levine back in, and immediately the Hawks went on a run and got back in it.
Without looking, I would guess that either Torian Prince or Kent Bazemore went nuts.
Bazemore was not on the floor for it. It's when the Bulls went nuts. So Trae Young was 0 for 4 from the field at that point. Len had a bucket. Who the fuck scored?
Vince Carter.
Vince Carter, 2 for 4 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3. Assist and a steal.
What are you doing with Vince Carter?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
I won't be playing him at all because he's 6,800 on FanDuel.
That's a good
4,900 on DK. So, yeah, I would be playing him quite a bit if I were playing on DraftKings. But at 6,800, he's just not. He shouldn't be $2,000 more expensive.
It's kind of a spot to me where I want one of Carter or Felicio in my DraftKings lineups because Carter's 49, Felicio's 32.
Yeah.
I don't think the plan going into a game is for Felicio to take a bunch of minutes from Wendell Carter because that would make absolutely no sense.
It is the Bulls.
Yeah, it is the Bulls. But they are playing 100% of the center minutes. And so, I mean, really, like on DraftKings, you're getting 48 center minutes for, what, $6,000, $7,000 if you wanted to. Not that I want to play them together because it caps the ceiling, but point being, like, that's where the center minutes are going. And if Carter gets in foul trouble against Jokic, or if he just plays poorly, or the second unit does well, like we saw in the Hawks game, Felicio is picking up all those minutes for 3,200. If not, Carter's playing 30 minutes. So it's one of those guys is going to get way more minutes than their price tag suggests.
They have to, yeah. I mean, I would probably lean towards. Well, ownership would play obviously a big part in this. I would want the guy with the clearly incorrect ownership, but I would probably lean towards Carter. Him being 4,900 is more ridiculous, I think, than Felicio being 32.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, like
Especially from like an upside standpoint. It's less likely that Felicio kills you because even if he plays 18 minutes, he probably will score like 18 points, and that's fine for his price. But it doesn't really 18 points doesn't get you anything. Uh, Carter is the one that has a better chance of just going out and throwing up a just ridiculous score somehow.
as I mentioned, Carter 6,800 on FanDuel. Guys around that price point. Brandon Ingram is 7,100. Paul Millsap is $100 cheaper. Kyle Kuzma is $300 cheaper. Rondé Hollis Jefferson is $800 cheaper. He's impossible to play. He's a power forward as well on FanDuel,
Right.
so he's absolutely impossible to play in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a really bad price point.
He should be like, he shouldn't be owned. So if you end up with like 2% Wendell Carter, you're probably fine, but you don't need to go to him with any sort of value or volume rather. That's probably enough on Bulls Nuggets unless I'm missing somebody.
Yeah,
Wait, we didn't talk about the Nuggets side.
Yeah, the Nuggets side.
Yeah, because there's a lot to like here. That's for sure. We'll start with Jokic. 10-2 on FanDuel, 9,700 on DK. He is my current I'm going to smash the center play for today, taking the mantle from Karl Anthony Towns, whose price is now back up to like 9,000 or something.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I don't really know how not to like him. The only issue I run into with Jokic is the same issue that I talked about with Drummond. Like, I love the spot, I love the player. I don't know how much. Like, I'm obviously going to play him, but I don't know how. I don't know that I'm going to end up with like a ton of ownership because I do want to prioritize getting in guys like Aiton and DeAndre Jordan as well. So it just makes it tough because I think it's a deep position with a ton of upside, and in general, paying up to the top of that position is never really what I want to do. But yeah, I mean, I love the spot for him. There's no reason to think that he's going to struggle at all. And it's another spot. It's basically the same spot with the Denver centers that you have with Chicago, where if you're playing large field tournaments or something, we know Jokic is going to have a ton of ownership. 48 center minutes are going to him and Mason Plumlee in a great spot. It is a spot, again, I don't factor in blowouts when I'm projecting like good players and stuff, but there's certainly a path to Mason Plumlee playing a bunch of minutes in this game.
Yeah.
And he's always productive when he plays, which is important. So I think that, if you do find yourself, needing value and in some lineups without Jokic, being overweight on Plumlee, which doesn't mean having a lot of exposure to him. It just means, having, 5 or whatever percent, should get you, pretty easily overweight. He certainly is the kind of guy that can kind of win you a large field tournament.
Without question, especially in this spot where, I mean, he can play 25 minutes here, and that would not be like a really shocking outcome.
Yeah, and on DraftKings, he's also power forward eligible, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, that
Just
that allows you to do a lot.
right. Yeah, I mean, just kind of thinking about it, like theoretically, you have obviously this is a spot that you want guys from Denver against Chicago, and I would really like to get exposure to the front court. But by playing Jokic, I lose one of Jordan or Aiton or Drummond or whatever. But I can make a lineup where I get two of my favorite centers and then get Plumlee, and there's a reasonably high percentage of the time that Plumlee ends up being a really good play.
I'm going to end up with probably a couple shares of him. He's $100 above the minimum on FanDuel. No reason to not be popping him into tournament lineups. This game could be over at, tip off.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's another one where it's like Felicio, where Plumlee, if you're projecting this game to stay close, as obviously I think you should, but
yeah,
it's not like this is a guy who's going to catch a DNP if the game stays close. He's still going to go out there and play, 15-ish minutes, and in the spot probably give you like 15 or 16 points, which sucks, but you're still talking about he's going to basically just like walk his way into 5x. So it's not like it's not a super, super, super risky play where you're going to end up with like a 3 in your lineup if it doesn't work.
Yeah, it would really shock me if he played if he ended up getting to like 21 minutes and underperformed. That's going to be
Right.
real difficult for me to get to.
Right. Yeah, and he's just and he's so cheap. Like if he was 4,200, it would be kind of a thin play because you would need him to actually be productive in his minutes, even if he gets extra minutes. But like he only needs a few extra minutes, whether it's a blowout or Jokic foul trouble or Jokic has to go to the locker room to retape something. Like that's all it really takes for Plumlee to be in a spot where he can go for 25 points at 3,600.
Definitely. Let's talk about the rest of this team. Jamal Murray, 7,400 on FanDuel, 7,000 on DraftKings. He's a guy that I don't really get to all that often. I probably should, but I just don't like his price. Is Jamal Murray anybody you really want to look at today?
I feel the same way that you do. I love the spot for him, and I'm hoping that I end up with a decent amount. But just looking through the slate, it's kind of tough to justify the price tag, especially now he's more expensive than Gary Harris, who we know gets a bump without Will Barton in the lineup.
Yeah.
It's a really good spot for him. Against the Chicago team that's going to leave him wide open a ton. So it's tough for me to like pay more money for Murray than for Harris.
And you D'Angelo Russell is $1,100 cheaper than him.
Right.
It's not a great game, but that's a lot of money. Dennis Smith Jr. is $1,100 cheaper than him. Jeff Teague is $1,600 cheaper than him. Jamal Murray is better than all of those guys, but not that much better.
Luka Doncic is $300 more expensive.
Does Murray have shooting guard eligibility?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I was looking at this stuff correctly. There was just like a seat, like he's kind of on an island, at least from point guard. But yeah, like Luka, Drew Holiday at 72. I mean, Levine at 74. I would rather have all of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that the thing playing to Murray's favor, like you said, is that he is shooting guard eligible. For some reason, Luka's back to only being a point guard, as is Dennis Smith. So it'll maybe be a little bit easier to get him in there. But again, you still have Drew potentially without AD. You have Levine. You have Donovan Mitchell against Minnesota. You have Russell with shooting guard eligibility. So it's still not an easy spot, to get him in. And then that's not even mentioning Gary Harris, who, is $100 cheaper, who I love.
Well, and let's talk about Gary Harris. 7,400 on FanDuel, 6,900 on DraftKings. Not a guy that I'll get to a ton on FanDuel. I probably should. But again, it's all about the people that are around him, like LeVert being $200 cheaper. I don't mind Gary Harris. I would never tell anybody not to play Gary Harris. I don't expect to get a ton of Gary Harris.
I would take Gary Harris over LeVert. I really like Gary Harris. Just he has just so much more upside without Will Barton in the lineup. He's locked into big minutes, assuming the game stays relatively competitive, and he's going to get just so many wide open looks against this Chicago team, and Zach LaVine, and like it's just such a good spot for him. I love Gary Harris here.
Here's my issue. I have him in my model 8% higher than what his weighted raw fantasy points per possession has been. So it's hard for me to bump him up further than that. I don't like getting too far away from it. I've already made adjustments to his usage rate with Will Barton out. I already have him in for a ton of minutes. So I think that being 8% over is about as high as I want to get. And when I'm 8% over on Gary Harris, I still get 0.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I like him. I have no aversion to the matchup, but something about his price point at 7,400 on FanDuel isn't popping up for me, even with a really nice boost for matchup and opportunity. So if anybody's curious why I get a 0 of it.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, looking just at the baseline projections I have, I'll probably end up running into the same issue, just because Drew Holiday, Zach LaVine, Hardaway, Thompson, these guys are all in that price range.
I would just even just on his own team, I'd have an easier time paying $4,600 for Monty Morris and going a different direction with an additional $3,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that, but
that's fair. Look, it all depends on what you get with that money, right? You would do that if I told you that you got from X to Y guy that you like.
Yeah. It's just that I don't, and I mean, yeah, Monty Morris does still have a ceiling. It's just that I feel like at like 4,600, he's getting pretty thin. But I guess Gary Harris at 6,900, it's not like there's a ton of excess value.
He's 74 on FanDuel too.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just a little bit too high of a price tag for me, but very clearly a phenomenal matchup. The Bulls are dreadful. And obviously, I just gave away that I like Monty Morris on FanDuel.
Yeah. How much is he there?
He's 46.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
I mean,
the best price.
Yeah. He clearly. So there are two things I like about him. For one, they're playing him next to Jamal Murray now, which is obviously good for his minutes. He's not, basically at the whim of Jamal Murray playing well or not playing well. So that's really good. And then also he's someone that I would expect to be on the floor regardless of game flow.
Yeah, he's going to get minutes. If it goes squirrely, I would expect him to be playing in a lot in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So I think there's upside there. Do you want any of your boy Trey Lyles?
No, not really. Same issue as always. If Paul Millsap gets hurt or something, Trey Lyles is going to immediately become a really, really, really good play. But as of right now, who did Denver play in their last game? I can't get Popcorn Machine to load.
They played.
I know the date. I just need the opponent to put in the URL so I can see the
Pelicans?
rotation.
Played the Pelicans.
So yeah, I'm pulling that game up now, but unless something changed in that game, he hasn't been playing any minutes alongside Millsap, which just makes it so tough to, really confidently get to him. And yeah, he didn't play any minutes alongside him here either. He did kind of steal a bunch of minutes though. I mean, Millsap was not in foul trouble in the first half, and we still got 5 first quarter minutes and then 7.5 minutes to start the second quarter. So we got like 14 minutes from Trey Lyles in the first half. He was playing really well, and they just left Millsap on the bench. So that, he has upside still. It's just that at his price, you're getting, more often than not, you're not going to want him on your team.
I'm going to pull that game script up as well. Didn't realize the New Orleans acronym was NOR on here.
Yeah, it took me.
Fucking annoying. And it's first. There we go. Thanks, Popcorn Machine, for being incredibly difficult. That's a lot of minutes for Malik Beasley. Whew.
Yeah, I don't think that Malone talked after the game. He said that basically he just said Torrey Craig didn't have it today. I still really like Torrey Craig. He's still the starter.
Great. Malik Beasley playing all but a minute and a half of the second half.
Yeah.
Why? Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not chasing those Beasley points or minutes.
No, neither am I. I have him in for 20 right now. I don't really want Torrey Craig or Beasley, so
I'll probably give Beasley a DNP.
Really?
Or like 6 minutes.
Yeah, look, I get it.
Well, just because
I'm not going to play either of those guys, so it's really not going to matter.
Yeah. Point is, I don't think Beasley plays 30 minutes.
That's a safe assumption. Now that was a solid 30 minutes on the Bulls and Nuggets. That one makes more sense. Anybody else here you want to talk about? No. I guess we didn't touch on Paul Millsap. I'll have some. He's Paul Millsap.
He just keeps being higher owned than I think he should be. Like, obviously he's cheap. It's a tough spot for me because he's cheap given the production that we expect out of him. But like we've talked about a lot, it's just really hard to see him getting more than 28 to 30 minutes because Lyles is not going to have games where he plays 14 minutes, I don't think.
Does Millsap get to abuse Jabari here?
I think, in the second and fourth quarter, he'll get some, but I think Lyles will get the bulk of it.
Okay. That's probably good for the Bulls.
Yeah. I would think that I'll end up with some Millsap just as a price play, even though I think that the ceiling's kind of capped. Okay.
Let's head to Minnesota. Wolves and Jazz, 110.5 implied total for the Wolves, 113 for the Jazz. The Jazz, 2.5-point favorites in Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns, 9,000 on FanDuel. Welcome to the 9Ks, buddy. I'm gonna have some, but I'm not gonna have 50% of them like I've had for the entire season. What do you think about Towns at 8,400 on DraftKings?
Probably still won't have much. I mean, it's a tough matchup with the Jazz. It's not like it's a pace up spot or anything. And center, as I've mentioned a few times already, I think is just absolutely loaded on DraftKings. Even if you assume Anthony Davis doesn't play and you don't have to factor him in, you still have, Jokic, Drummond, uh, Jordan, Gobert, Ayton. Like it's just a stacked position where I don't feel the need to play Karl Anthony Towns against the Jazz.
DJ Suave in the chat. Kitty Cat is on my permanent exclude list. How'd that work for you on Monday?
There's an exception to every rule.
Yeah. Towns in his most recent matchup against Gobert went for 20-7. Not a great game in the game before that.
He had some success against him.
He went 32-13 in one of them. I don't ever worry about matchups against Rudy Gobert. So
yeah, and Towns is someone that I think should do fine against Gobert anyway because he doesn't rely on scoring at the rim. It's more of just the Jazz as a team defense being good and it being, a pace down game and a stacked position. Like I don't know. I just can't see why I would ever pay $1,300 more for Towns against the Jazz than Ayton against the Spurs, or $800 more than Jordan against the Lakers.
Totally agree. Yeah, like I think Gobert affects Jimmy Butler more than he affects Karl Towns in this game.
Yeah. Anyone that's driving to the basket. Yeah, and anyone who's driving to the basket is where Gobert has an impact. More of an impact. And centers who rely on, scoring at the rim, I get concerned, but that's not the case for Towns.
No, not at all. Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns should be like Gobert's kryptonite.
Yeah.
Speaking of the rest of this team, Jimmy Butler, 9,600 on FanDuel, 8,200 on DK. I won't have any.
No, I just don't see the need to do that. I mean, we've already talked about how deep the shooting guard position is as well. I don't know. Just taking guys against the Jazz doesn't seem really necessary to me.
The two most expensive shooting guards on FanDuel tonight: $9,700 DeMar DeRozan, $9,600 Jimmy Butler. I would have less than zero if I could.
Utah is playing faster than I realized this year. That's worth noting. 13th in pace so far.
It's not bad. What do I have them in my numbers? Not 13th, 26th. So, assuming they're going to slow down.
Still 5th in defensive rating.
Yeah, they're so good. They are 8% better than average at fantasy points per possession defensively. Just nasty. You want any Teague? You want any Wiggins if he's back? I assume the answer is probably no on both. Teague, sure.
Teague's really cheap, so I don't mind it. Like he's 5,400 on DraftKings. I don't love the spot, but he's really cheap, so I'm sure I'll end up with a little bit. But it's not a spot that I'm, like endorsing him because of anything other than price.
Completely agree. That's just too cheap of a price point. Really, all that is. I don't really want to go to anybody else. I mean, if Wiggins is out, then Okogie is probably in play. I don't have him projected for anything right now because I assume Wiggins plays, but if he doesn't, what's his price point? Do you know?
I do not, because I also don't have him projected for anything.
Give him 1 minute just so this pops up on my screen. 4,600 on FanDuel, 4,400 on DK. Yeah, you got to know Wiggins is out to want to play him.
Yeah, and even then, it's still like Josh Okogie against Utah.
Yeah, the bloom will be a little bit off the rose there. I don't have anything else in Minnesota. No thanks on Derrick Rose or the rest of these goons.
Nope. I don't really have much interest in Minnesota at all.
Talk about the Utah side of this game. And we'll start with Donovan Mitchell, 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DK. This is probably going to need like a bigger discussion, so I'm anxious to get your take. I got 64% Donovan Mitchell on my first crunch. I'm a little bit higher than his recent averages, so that's a spot that I can probably bring it down, but I'm just like irrationally high on Donovan Mitchell. Tell me why I should or shouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't think there's much not to like there. I mean, the price tag's still reasonably inexpensive for a guy that, projects to have a usage rate up around 30%, should play around 36 minutes. It's not a good Minnesota defense. Should see plenty of Jimmy Butler, I would think, but that's not overly concerning when you're talking about, a defense overall that's not very good. So, yeah, and then he hasn't been shooting well this year, which we had talked about before that Houston game where he shot 14 of 25. But overall, he's had, he's been shooting better lately, 14 of 25, 7 of 10, 10 of 19. But, you know, the shots are there and we expect him to, shoot to his career average, not to the way he started the season. Um, the one thing that would be nice is if we were getting, a few more assists. Obviously, Ricky Rubio and Joe Ingles cutting into those pretty significantly, and it makes him really scoring dependent,
Yeah.
which is something that normally makes me not want to be, have my entire night hinge on someone when they are, kind of one dimensional like Mitchell is. But I like the matchup and I like the price point for sure.
Okay. I mean, just so everybody understands this, having 64% Donovan Mitchell in my first crunch is essentially useless. If we get ownership projections out and he's at 7%, I'm not going to continue to be that many multiples over the field. I'll end up at like 30 and redistribute 30% of that ownership to Levine and Drew Holiday and Luka Doncic and other guys that are around him. So don't think that this is like a ringing endorsement to start. I'm going to have him and I'm going to be over the field. That's just how this works. But don't see 64 and think, holy shit, Josh loves Donovan Mitchell today. I do, but he's not going to be that owned, and I'm not going to need that much. That's the key takeaway in all of this. You need to be very aware of where the public is going to be. If someone's going to be at 5%, you're probably doing yourself a disservice if you put him in at like 70. If you're mass entering. If you're putting 150 lineups in, like there becomes a point where you want to have more options because of the just sheer variance of the sport.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think like that's a good discussion because I think it's something that for someone like me, and I think a lot of people who are kind of newer to max entry or making a lot of lineups, with Cruncher, for me, like I've always been a hand builder who plays 10 to 20 lineups. And so my entire thing has been basically just jamming in a core of guys and then rotating a few guys in because I want when my core hits, I want 20 different shots at getting first place.
Yeah.
But if making 150 lineups, it's a completely different approach, which like I've found myself getting in trouble sometimes where it's like, oh, I have 80% of this guy and he's 5% owned.
Right.
As well.
Yeah, like you get to a point where you're not even you're costing yourself by situations when you're wrong. So like if it is a guy that's 5%, like I think 30 is probably like a reasonable number to consider him as like I'm loading up on him. And then you have, instead of going to 60, if that's what's coming up, like in this case for Donovan Mitchell, then I'm way above the field. If Donovan Mitchell goes crazy, I am way out in front of those people. But if he doesn't and he's just pedestrian, I haven't hamstrung myself by an additional, like him being in 2/3 of everything that I do.
Right. So if you were projected at like 20%, how high would you go?
Well, like, okay, if Locke was now and Donovan Mitchell was at 20%, I would figure I would end up in like the 35 to 40 range.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That would probably, just judging on where everything else is, because this is something that's going to happen to multiple people in my projections. I got 65% Dennis Smith on my first crunch. I got 50% Curry. I got 50% LeBron, 65% Harrison Barnes, 65% Draymond, 60% Jokic. None of those numbers are going to hold. So as I cut those guys from 60 to 35 or 40, all of that redistributes. So I might not even have to touch Donovan Mitchell. He might just naturally come in at a different spot. But yeah, like it wouldn't be 65. It'd be somewhere in the 30-35% range.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll go up to 60, 65, 70 on guys where opportunity has changed. So like when there's nothing has changed about Donovan Mitchell. He's just popping up. but it's not.
Right.
He's not popping up because someone's out. He's getting an additional 8 minutes, and like his floor is different.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
just like a quirk.
Right. It's because he's projected for like 2 points more than a range of like 5 other guys.
Exactly. But if Donovan Mitchell was accidentally like 7,200 on FanDuel, then it's like a totally different story. Or if, Rubio and someone are out and he got 8 extra minutes, like that, those are the times where I'll go way above. But if it's just Donovan Mitchell in a neutral matchup, it's not.
So yeah, so like there's less risk in being significantly overweight or having a ton of your money into like a $3,900 Pascal Siakam without OG.
Right. Like I had 50% Siakam yesterday because of that.
Compared to Donovan Mitchell in his normal role at his normal price, just in a good matchup where he's projected for a couple more points than like 5 other guys. But if you play the slate 1,000 times, those guys are all kind of going to score the same.
Yeah, I see no real difference in Donovan Mitchell, Drew Holiday, Zach LaVine, Doncic. All these guys are in like these mid-8 prices. Nothing has changed for Donovan Mitchell to make him be 65% and those other 3 guys be 0. And it just won't look like that by the time I get to lock.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
But he will be the guy that I have the most of those 4 guys if lock were right now. Anybody? Well, yeah, anybody else. We've only talked about Donovan Mitchell. God, it's one of those days. Rudy Gobert, 9,100 on FanDuel, 7,900 on DK. I won't have him at all on FanDuel. I don't know how you feel about $7,900 Gobert on DK though.
I'll probably have some, not a lot, because I can't prioritize him over DeAndre Ayton. I can't prioritize him over DeAndre Jordan. Right. But it is a spot that I think has kind of like, to borrow from NFL, I guess, like spike potential, just because he is defending a relatively high usage guy in Towns. If you just go back and look at when they faced each other, his block numbers like jump off the page. 4 blocks, 2, 2, 2, 4, 3. So in the last 7 meetings, he hasn't had less than 2 blocks. He's had 4 blocks in 3 out of those 7. So I think there's certainly just like monster upside for him, but it's not someone that I expect to like project as well as guys like Ayton and Jordan. So I kind of just I want to. He's a guy who I don't expect to be popular either. I'm guessing he won't be. I'd like to be over the field. I wouldn't like to have massive amounts of him though.
Yeah, he's $100 more expensive than Towns on FanDuel at 9,100, $400 cheaper than Drummond. But I see no feasible way to go to Rudy Gobert for 9,100 in this spot.
Those blocks are nice on FanDuel though.
They are for sure. Like, I'd probably rather have Ayton at 8,100. I'd rather have JaVale at 7,000. But let's find out where Anthony Davis is on that one first. Yeah. Ingles, Favors, Crowder. Do you want any of these guys? Exum.
If Favors is out, then Crowder remains interesting.
Sure.
But otherwise, it kind of kills both of them.
Agreed.
Rubio, I guess, is still fine.
Revenge narrative?
That's a pretty nice. I'd rather play Rubio than Teague.
Revenge narrative for Rubio?
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
So no. Guess that didn't register.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, I don't know. I just think that 5,600 Rubio is better than 5,400 Teague given their respective matchups.
56. Yeah, I would agree. I would rather have Rubio. Anything else here? Oh god,
no.
This next game.
What's next? Indiana?
Yeah. Knicks and Pacers. 103 implied total for the Knicks. Lowest of the slate. Pacers 108.5. I guess we'll start with the Knicks. You have any confidence in who the 5 guys are that start this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing we get the same 5, but no, I have no idea. If we do get the same 5, then Mitchell Robinson remains a crapshoot. Like, he started, and then Enes Kanter played the entire last 17 minutes of the first half.
Yeah.
So it makes Mitchell Robinson a tournament punt because he's really cheap. It's not a bad spot, but you just run the risk of Kanter going out and taking all of his minutes. So you can't trust him in cash games. But
he's 4,400 now on FanDuel. Don't even go there.
Yeah, I was trying to pull up what he is on DraftKings now.
36.
Yeah, that's That's fine.
Yeah,
It's kind of even though he's starting, it's kind of it's not the same as Plumlee at all, but it's kind of a similar, I think, like range of outcomes. Um, yeah, I don't know, like Hardaway. I like Hardaway because he's just gonna chuck 20 to 25 shots again, like he always does, and his inefficiency keeps his price tag down a bit. So he's someone that always has, I think, more upside than his price suggests. Ntilikina's been playing really well, also. Basically he's playing true point guard. He's getting shots up too. So I think Ntilikina's okay, but not not anything that I'm in love with.
I got 1% Vonleh and 2% Dotson on my first crunch, and not a single other piece of the Knicks. Couldn't be happier.
Yeah, Hardaway's the one that I would be concerned about not having.
Yeah, 7,000 on FanDuel. Let's take a look at shooting guard and see what's in his ballpark. I'm rarely concerned that I don't have him. I'll just be concerned that one day every 6 weeks where I should have been concerned.
Well, yeah. He's just one of those guys that I like having in some lineups every day because he's got all the opportunity in the world to score 50 points.
Completely agree. God, he's even at like a weird price. LeVert and Gary Harris, $200 and $400 above him. I certainly trust both of those guys more.
Yeah, I think Hardaway's got the highest ceiling out of the three.
I would agree. Because he doesn't have an off switch.
Yeah, he's probably also got the lowest projection out of the three.
He certainly does. Anybody else? I can't talk about the Knicks. I have no idea.
Right.
It's an impossible team to try to take a look at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Like I want to have interest in Cantor because it's a good matchup, but center's so freaking deep that I don't want to go 6,600 at Cantor. Like that just seems like you're starting to name every player on the slate.
You have to. You have to take a look at Cantor if we find out he's starting. Otherwise, like, there's no telling.
If Cantor's starting and you can project him for 33 minutes like he was playing every game until the last two, he went from, I think, 77 or 7,600 on DraftKings to 6,600 because of his new role.
Yeah.
So suddenly he would just be massively, massively underpriced.
Right. Yeah. If you know that Cantor's starting, and the assumption would be that he's going to play like a normal person, he's way too cheap.
But I mean, as like the way we have it right now, even with him playing 17 minutes in the first half of the game against Brooklyn, he still only finished the game at 26 minutes. So for him to get to those 33 minutes off the bench, even if he takes a ton of minutes, like he basically would just have to, Mitchell Robinson would have to go to like that Jake Layman role where he just plays the first 6 minutes of each half.
Antoine Murphy in chat. Speaking of Elliot Kobo, easy on FanDuel. Yeah, I'll have 0.
What? You got to talk to Lofty.
Do I?
I woke up today with like 3 different messages from Lofty just about how much he loves Elliot Kobo.
I don't think I'll have any. I don't know. Maybe I will. I think I have some right now. I just hate that team. Let's talk about Indiana because at least they're a real basketball team. Oladipo, 9,400 on FanDuel, 8,600 on DK. I won't have any of the top tier of shooting guard. It'll be Mitchell and everything below that. But DeRozan 97, Butler 96, Oladipo 94. I fully expect to have 0 of all 3 of those guys.
I kind of think it will end up depending on if Anthony Davis plays for me. Because if I don't need to pay up for Davis, it opens up more money for, like, I love Oladipo and I love DeRozan. It's just that I can't prioritize them if I have the money to spend elsewhere. It's hard to prioritize them at this position. But Oladipo, the minutes and the usage are still just so nice. So I don't know. I would assume I have less of him than I do of Levine or Mitchell.
Yeah, 8,600 a little on DK. And it's pretty much an equal price point. Yeah, he's just not for me. What about Miles Turner?
Yeah, Turner's another good center that I assume I won't end up with a ton of.
5,800 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DK. I didn't get any Turner, but I'd be cool with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Too cheap.
I like him. It's just when you start asking me what center I'm cutting back on, like to get him, that I don't really have an answer for you.
Yeah, agreed. I'm hoping that I can trim my Jokic exposure and then start to get a couple other guys here. Uh, I got 12% Corey Joseph on my first crunch, which I should probably just pack it in for the day. But he's 3,900 on FanDuel. I don't know. I'll have him as a punt. Best I can say. I don't want any Thad or Tyreek. What do you think about Darren Collison? 5,300 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DK. He's been a little tasty over these past two.
Yeah, I like the DraftKings price point in particular. Like Collison's one of the guys that I've been projecting for like 30 to 32 minutes every game this season based on like first half rotations, but the Pacers were just in a ton of blowouts and so he wasn't getting there. And then finally the last couple of games we've seen him, play the minutes that I thought he was going to play all season. So, 4,700 for a guy that I'm going to continue projecting at 30 to 32 minutes is pretty appealing.
Sabonis is $500 cheaper on FanDuel. I guess if you want to use him on FanDuel, go ahead, but don't get excited. Upside there if this game gets out of hand?
Yeah, I mean, he's just such like a permanent monster and he's going to be playing against Enes Kanter.
Yeah. Or maybe Mitchell Robinson. Who knows who he's playing against? Jesus. Yeah. There's no telling.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a ton of exposure to this game, and I don't want a ton of exposure to this game. The Nets, Pistons, Knicks, and Pacers games are all sort of just off my radar.
Yep, I'm with you pretty much.
Let's head to the late games. 3:10:30 starts. Yeah, blast. Caveat in this first one, no idea if Anthony Davis is playing. I have him in for right now, so those are the assumptions I'm going with. I assume you do as well.
I don't have him in on the crunch that I just ran, but on my first like crunch where I actually put in my projections and stuff, I'll have him in.
Okay. We'll start on Durant. 10-8 on FanDuel, 9,600 on DraftKings. I'm a fan of Durant here.
Yeah, so am I. I think the price tag is just too low for him. It's always tough for me with the Warriors just because their median projections normally don't really jump off the page for me, but whenever Steph's hot, he just shoots. And when Durant's hot, he shoots. And when Clay's hot, he shoots. So you get like spiked usage games instead of, just everyone having 30% usage all the time. So whenever one of their prices drop, like we see on Durant at only 9,600 here in a really fast-paced game, I really, really like Durant a lot.
Yeah, and the Pels are very specifically set up to not have anyone even remotely close to guarding Durant. Not that anyone guards Durant to begin with, but if they have any weaknesses, it's having anybody in that sort of vein of player. It's what they're searching for. They're the new Clippers.
You're not a big Solomon
Wes Johnson. What?
You're not a big Solomon Hill fan?
No, not so much. Not so much. I'll tell you who was though. The Pelicans. I'll tell you who wasn't. Pacers. I just got done listening to Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue talk about how the Pacers declined his fourth-year option on his rookie deal, and then he signed a huge 2016 deal with the Pels.
Yeah.
Shout out 2016 money. Steph, 9-9 on FanDuel, 9-8 on DK. I'm going to have a ton of Steph because he's still under 10K, and this is only Steph. The 123-point game total, which is very clearly the highest of the day.
Yeah, I don't expect that Steph will project into a lot of my lineups, but I think one thing to point out is that with Durant being 9,600, if you do see a lot of ownership going to Kevin Durant, Steph's just the easy, pivot as far as trying to get leverage on the field, because when Steph has one of his games, he, doesn't give Durant the ball. So
right. I mean, that's how they're set up now. If one of these two guys gets even like a little bit of a fire under them in the first quarter, I feel like they're just going to nod at. I said this to Laffy yesterday. They're just going to nod at each other and be like, "Go ahead, man. I'll get one next week." But like, just let it rip. They have way too much fun like watching each other.
Yeah,
kick everybody else's ass.
Too, when you have a sweat with one of them. Like I think it was last year. I had a legit shot at winning some like huge tournament with Kevin Durant, and it was just a game where I think it might have been when Steph set the 3-point record before Clay just broke it.
Yeah.
But it was like you're watching in the first 6 minutes into the game, Curry has like 6 threes, and I'm just like, shit, I have no chance.
They're not going to turn him off at that point. Like he's going to go so long as this game, if it stays even remotely close, Like the priority has just like they dictate their priority based on how it starts.
Yeah, exactly.
If Draymond hits like 3 threes to start, he's probably going to end up with like a triple double because he's going to get energized and start being everywhere. It's just
Right.
I love this Warriors team. I'm so happy Durant went there. I don't care what it does to the league.
Yeah, they're really fun to watch at least.
Yeah. I'm going to have an absolute ton of Curry. And I'm going to have an absolute ton of Draymond. 7,600 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DK. He's just too cheap for me. I want to have a lot of Draymond. What do you think? I mean, I assume 6,700 on DK. You're just interested because he's too cheap.
Yeah, for sure. And like he's not someone that I love playing, but I do think he's too cheap. I don't think it's a bad, matchup or anything. If Davis plays, it gives him, more defensive stat upside as well, which would be really nice. Yeah, I just think it's a really nice price tag.
You gonna go to Clay? 6,600 on FanDuel, 6,400 on DK. Hopefully his ownership is juiced a little bit.
Yeah,
It doesn't make it
probably.
any less of a good spot, but temper your expectations.
Right. Yeah, it's a good spot. It's not. I don't like going to Clay after his price tag jumps, 15% because he set the NBA 3-point record. I obviously think he's better than he has been most of the season, which is why we liked him against the Bulls because he had like a 13% 3-point percentage so far, and he's going to shoot to his career averages. But it's just, I don't know, on a deep shooting guard slate, you're not getting an insane amount of value on Thompson at this price point.
Correct. It certainly has a ceiling. We just saw it. I can't imagine if he played that whole damn game.
Right.
But now I think he'll slide to the background a little bit here. Perfectly acceptable play in a game that should just be crazy up and down. But Antoine Murphy, Clay is the easiest fade today. I don't agree with that at all.
I mean, if you tell me that he's gonna be, I don't think he'll actually be that popular. Is the thing.
No, neither do I.
If you told me that Clay's like 25% owned, then I would agree.
Blowout, staying away from Golden State. How'd that work when they blew out 2 nights ago?
Yeah.
If the Warriors blow them out, it's because Durant, Curry, like some combination of two of those dudes went bonkers.
Yeah. I mean,
they don't blow people out and have big games out of Kevon Looney that break the game open.
Yeah, I don't, and I feel like we're like a week and a half into the season. I've already gone on my like blowout tangent like 4 different times. To me, factoring in blowouts is the biggest waste of time that anyone does at all in DFS.
It's preposterous what people do for that.
The exception being like short slates where you're creating an entire like crunch where if this game blows out and you're like projecting guys completely differently.
Yeah, if it's a 3-game slate, it's a completely different question.
Yeah, but on full slates, like just project guys to their ceilings and then limit your exposure if you think the game might blow out. But like not playing guys because of a blowout, it's like the biggest waste of time, I think, because of like not only are we not very good at actually predicting when games blow out, but if a game gets out of hand, if a team wins by 25, but it was a 12-point game with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, you lost like 2 minutes maybe from your starter.
And if a game is a blowout, they had to get to a blowout for some sort of above average offensive performance. You don't blow people out and still play bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. People still talk about it, and it just like blows my mind.
On a 7-game, it doesn't even cross my mind on a slate like this.
Nope.
It won't change my outlook on Durant. It won't change my outlook on Curry.
And like, there's plenty of games. It's not like it's unusual for a 1 or a 2-point spread to end up being a blowout. Like, we're just terrible at predicting them. And if you're going to factor them in, then you really should be factoring them in for like 90% of games on a slate, probably.
Yeah, look, if Anthony Davis is not in this game, I'm probably going to temper a little bit of my exposure simply because I don't see a path for the Pelicans to even remotely stay in that game. They're a really bad basketball team without Anthony Davis on there. It doesn't mean I don't like Curry or Draymond. Like, I'll probably still like Draymond in that spot, but the Warriors are still going to be projected to put up 125 regular points. There's a lot of fantasy points to go around there.
And Golden State's kind of different than everyone too, because with the exception of when they beat a team by like a million, like they did with Chicago, um, you have Durant normally starting the fourth quarter, you have Clay normally starting the fourth quarter, and you have Draymond normally starting the fourth quarter. So Curry's the only one who loses fourth. Like if it's a 16-point game to start the fourth, and then at the 6 minute mark it's a 25-point game, Curry doesn't come back in, but you still got six fourth quarter minutes from Thompson, Durant, and Green.
Yeah. Ownership projections are out, so shout out to Tom for letting us know in the chat. Like and subscribe also, just because. We've talked about a couple of these guys so far. I'm going to give you some DraftKings names. Who do you think the chalkiest guy is on DK? We have talked about the game. You get this, good for you.
Yeah, I have no idea.
D'Angelo Russell.
Really?
Dennis Smith Jr., second. Jabari Parker, third. Jeff Teague, fourth.
Jeff Teague popped in my initial crunch before I've even adjusted anything, so that makes sense.
I mean, if I feel safe in saying that if you can run a crunch and not get a bunch of Jeff Teague on DraftKings today, you probably have an error in your projections.
Yeah.
He's got the most variance, one of the most variance from price and normal output. So there's that. FanDuel, we haven't gotten to him yet, but there's some healthy ownership on a guy from the Suns.
Eliakoba?
No.
DeAndre Ayton?
No, he sucks. I shouldn't narrow it down too much on the Suns, but
Josh Jackson. God
yes.
Damn it.
How much? What do you think we have Josh Jackson's ownership estimated at? Now, it's not going to be here. I'm confident of this.
What's his price?
37.
He should be 60% owned.
You would be under the field. A crisp 72.
I mean, on FanDuel, where you can drop his terrible price.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd probably play 100%.
Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with it. There's not a lot else low on power forward. I mean, there's not a lot at power forward to begin with outside of the top end. So yeah, 72% Josh Jackson. Oh boy. There's just too much opportunity. Is really all that there is. Any other interest in Golden State? Will you be popping any of the down the order guys? Any Alfonso McKinney?
No.
Agreed. Totally agree. Any Iguodala? 38 on FanDuel, 36 on DK. Any interest there?
No, he's just a guy that doesn't. I don't think has enough volatility for me to ever want to play. Really, he doesn't have a ceiling.
Agreed. People are freaking out about Josh Jackson in chat. Josh Jackson is playing like trash.
Josh Jackson sucks, but
yeah. Tom says, yeah, 100% Josh Jackson probably for me. Yeah, FanDuel is a different beast.
Yeah,
there is nothing else down there.
Right, you can get rid of the times that he goes out there and turns it over 16 times in 5 minutes, but there's no question that the guy has a monster ceiling at that price.
Yeah, there's very little downside. He's only costing $200 more than the minimum, so you're getting additional money to allocate to the other 8 spots in your lineup. And I mean, he could have a 35-point fantasy game at that price point because it's the Suns.
Right. Yeah, he's 47 on DraftKings, and I probably will have more than I should there.
Yeah. Dreadful. Just play Curry, play Durant, play Draymond. Stick to that. Let's go to the Pels. Assuming AD plays, I'll have essentially none. 10-8 on FanDuel, 9,600 on DK. Nope, that's Durant's price. I typed this shit in wrong. 12-8 on FanDuel, 11-4 on DK. Yeah, I will have next to no Anthony Davis if he's in this game.
I will have a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I don't mean that I can't believe you're playing Anthony Davis. So let me temper that a little bit.
Best player on the slate. What is wrong with you?
You would you prefer AD at 11-4 to LeBron at 11-3?
Yeah, I always prefer AD to LeBron.
Okay.
I think that I think that Giannis is the best DFS player there is right now. I think Davis is the second best. I mean, if you look at Davis's numbers going back to last year without Cousins, just a point per minute monster. He's been even more productive this year. They're playing at a faster pace, so I don't think that's really that surprising. And yeah, it's just I love him. Whenever Giannis isn't on the slate, I get a lot of Davis. It's a matchup that he should do well in. He's had plenty of success in the past. Even when you factor in playing with Cousins in some of those games. So yeah, if he does play, then I really like Davis, especially because on DraftKings there are so many guys that are kind of cheaper than they should be. I don't think it'll be that tough to get him in.
You mentioned AD and Giannis as your two top fantasy players. Neither of those guys are the guy that comes up number one in my model. Any guesses?
Like based on
fantasy points per possession.
Oh,
and it's not Boban. I'm not trying to lead you down a weird. He's 10th or 11th or something like that. Hold on. Boban's 12th. I mean, it's real. He's not going to play 35 minutes, and that's why it doesn't matter. But
yeah,
very obvious answer here.
Yeah, I'm completely drawing a blank.
Point guard for the Thunder.
Oh yeah. He would be my third.
Yeah, he is number one, slightly ahead of Anthony Davis. 1/100th of a point per possession. So a little bit of wiggle room. I want to touch on this. Ted in chat says, why would anyone ever have no Anthony Davis?
It's an excellent question.
Sure, it is. He's 12,800 on FanDuel today. At power forward, the next closest power forward in salary is Blake Griffin, $4,000 below him. I won't get to a ton of him because I would prefer my roster construction otherwise. I'll be under the field almost for sure unless we don't get any news up until lock and he's like oddly low. It's just not the way that roster construction will work for me. I'll have more combinations of guys a notch below him, and I'll hope that he doesn't put up 100.
Yeah. I actually just thought about it too it's nice that we have all these late games with like stars and that Golden State's in the same game as the Pelicans, because if we don't get Davis news on DraftKings, you can pretty easily just run crunches as if he's going to play and then late swap to Durant and Curry.
Or LeBron.
Yeah, or LeBron. That would be the really easy one, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're playing on DraftKings, news is irrelevant for AD. Play him like you think you're going to play him, and if that doesn't work out, you have plenty of options with 3 games at 10:30.
Right.
Yeah, I can't do it right now from a 12-8 perspective. It's just too much. Not that he can't blow that out of the water. Clearly he can.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Like that's a pretty healthy price tag.
Yeah.
Like 11.4 on DraftKings, I think it's just cheap. Like I think he's
He's $2,000 more expensive than Blake on DK and $4,000 more expensive than him on FanDuel.
Right, yeah. Like he's like a $12,500, $13,000 player, I think. So FanDuel, there's still upside, but it's not like there's a ton of value at that price. On DraftKings, I just think he's one of the more underpriced guys that there is.
No, I'm totally with you there. It's a completely different equation on DraftKings does he have center eligibility too on DK?
Yep.
It's a completely different question on DraftKings than it is on FanDuel. I mean, no one will want to hear this, but like when push comes to shove, none of these guys are real to me. They're just numbers on a page. And I'm trying to maximize certain things. And his price makes that kind of difficult unless he goes for one of his Anthony Davis 90-point games.
You and your numbers are what's wrong with sports, Josh.
Very true. Very true. What are you going to do? I would have hated 10-year-old me would have hated me for sure.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the stats on the back of a baseball card. Yeah,
I think that's how I learned how to read, was like reading the back of baseball cards.
Yeah, a lot of Sports Illustrated on the shitter too.
Yeah. It definitely kind of ruins sports once you start doing this and looking at it the way that we do now,
Uh,
or at least ruin sports in the way that, like I used to enjoy sports.
yeah, like there's no fandom anymore. It's just cheering for things that will benefit me from financially. I used to
Right?
love
Yeah.
Duke basketball. I lived for it. It dictated everything in my life from October through April. And now I saw them play. Like, this is how much I have no idea. I could recite anything that happened for Duke from 1990 to 2008. Did they win the title with Okafor? They beat Wisconsin. I don't know. Whatever year they were in the title game, that was the first that I saw them that season, and I only watched half of the title game.
Yeah.
And I used to I would need like 2 days off of school if they dropped one of the games to Carolina.
Right.
I moved to North Carolina and suddenly stopped caring about, arguably the biggest rivalry in sports.
Right.
Insanity. Josh is ruining the game. Drew Holiday, 8,300 on FanDuel, 7,200 on DraftKings. I'm in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot obviously depends on Davis too, but even if Davis is in with Elf out, you're just still going to get a bunch more ball handling for Drew, and that's also a reason that I think Davis is a even better play than normal. Like, he already is involved passing, but without Peyton, you're going to get the ball in his hands even more. So it should be a bump for him and for Holiday.
I want to touch on this because T McB just mentioned it in the chat, and it has nothing to do with this specific game, but I do want to get your take. If the field is really going to be at 70% on Josh Jackson, he says, I want to be elsewhere, not above, even with the drop slot. Isn't it the same concept of limiting your field by playing that much of him? I don't think so. Not with dropping a score on FanDuel. I don't think that chalkiness on a potential punt play is all that relevant any longer.
Yeah, to me, it seems like more risk. And again, I haven't even played FanDuel basketball yet this year, but just from thinking about it, I think that the risk probably outweighs the reward in a spot like that, where it's an egregiously mispriced guy
Yeah.
that has legitimate ceiling. Like, so if you fade Josh Jackson and your punt beats him by 6 points or whatever, it doesn't matter because everyone else is just dropping Josh Jackson,
Right.
and so it doesn't really matter. But then the alternative is where Josh Jackson does what we're probably going to project Josh Jackson to do and be one of the best point per dollar plays on the slate at 3,700. So when he does that, you don't have him and everyone else does, and you're just kind of at a huge disadvantage because you don't have the best value play on the slate.
Yeah, it's before, if you faded chalk and it hit, it was a problem. But if you were right, it turns into a great benefit. But if you're right here, it doesn't necessarily become any benefit because all you're still doing is just you're spending all of that money on 8 guys. So I have no problem being that high. There's no real downside.
Yeah, and there's a percentage of the time where you're going to be right, and it's literally not going to matter because your pivot still gets dropped. Like, he beats Josh Jackson, but he still gets dropped.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Yeah, if all you're doing is getting to another $3,900 guy, like, he can outscore Josh Jackson by 12 fantasy points and still be worthless.
Right.
So, yeah, I have no problems now when guys are in like that 3,500 to 4K range on FanDuel. Simply because being with the field is no longer relevant. You still just want to be different in the other 8 spots, and now you have extra money to deal with it.
If he were like 4,100 or 4,200 and people were still just using him as their potential drop, then you could make the argument of like dropping a $3,500 guy while they're dropping a 4,200 does give you an advantage.
Yeah.
But where he's 3,700, that $200 is meaningless over the course of a bunch of lineups.
Exactly. Yeah, when it comes to guys at 4K and below, I have no qualms with having any sort of crazy amount of exposure. Not on FanDuel, not now. And I don't know what it is. I like the drop spot. Like, it wouldn't be my first choice in the world. I would have done different things, but it hasn't changed anything for me. NBA has been great on FanDuel so far, so I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. Okay, so again, we're assuming Anthony Davis is in. Drew Holiday is fine. You want any Nico? 7,700 on FanDuel, 75 on DraftKings. Feels a little expensive.
Yeah, I think it's a little expensive. I still don't mind him in tournaments just because he clearly has that ceiling, and it's a game where I think there should be a lot of points, but not going to be a priority for me.
Okay. Julius Randle, 6,600 on FanDuel, 65 on DK.
Yeah, I think this is a game where I like Randall just because he should get, if Davis plays, obviously it caps him some, but it's just I love Randall in games where he can get out and run against small lineups.
Can he run right now with those bum wheels?
I think he's fine. He had a monster game against whoever they just played.
Yeah. The
Denver.
guy that I don't normally get a lot of, and I have a little bit here, Eton Moore, 4,400 on FanDuel, 4,100 on DK. I don't get the sense that I want to have a ton, but I might have some here. There's just too many possessions in this game.
Yeah, he's kind of just underpriced for how fast New Orleans plays, especially whenever they're playing another team that plays fast. It's tough because I hate playing guys where like their good games are still like 32 points because more often than not you're going to get like that 24 points where it's nice point per dollar, but it doesn't really move the needle for you in tournaments and it ends up being a wasted spot. But I mean, he's locked into 32 around 32 minutes here in a fast-paced game, so I have no issue with using him as a value guy.
Okay. Didn't work out for me 2 nights ago, but Frank Jackson, 3,500 on FanDuel, full minimum salary punt, 3,400 on DK. He got shots up.
Yeah, I still have trouble. I just still have trouble trusting him because Ian Clark played 6 minutes in that game. Ian Clark's a regular rotation guy who, with Elfrid Payton out, played less minutes. Not saying that I expect him to, take all of Frank Jackson's minutes, but I just still don't have confidence in what they're actually going to do with that backcourt rotation of Clark, Jackson, and Frazier. So like I'll have some. I think there's clearly upside if things go right. It's just a guy that I definitely want to cap my exposure on and not be too crazy.
If we find out that AD is out, I'm absolutely playing a ton of Frank Jackson again. I'm willing to be wrong, but if he's going to play 25 minutes at full-on minimum salary at shooting guard, I'm in. That's just, again, it's FanDuel. It's a different story.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Neil in chat, why not just allow late swap in the NBA and then the drop slot never would have been necessary? I would much rather have the drop slot than late swap. There's a reason I'm not playing a DK, because I would like to continue my marriage. I don't know if my wife does, but I'm going to need one of these sites to not have late swap so that I can not have to be like, oh, hey, honey, I know that we're out at a nice dinner tonight, but AD just got scratched and it's 9:30, so I'm going to be gone for a half hour redistributing 150 lineups. I can't do it. If I were single, I would play the living shit out of DraftKings. It would be fun, and I would want to take advantage of it. I don't have that kind of time in life. It's really that easy.
Moral of the story, stay single, guys.
Yeah. The moral of the story, don't get married. Hope she can't hear that. I hope she's downstairs. No way she's listening to this shit. Let's head to the Lakers and Mavs game. We're already at hour 30. 2 games left. We'll start with the Lake show. 120.75 implied total. Mavs 114.25. 6.5 point favorites for the Lakers. LeBron 12-4 on FanDuel. 11-3 on DK. I'll have a lot of LeBron. I won't have very much AD when people were freaking out there, but it's because of the position. Small forward and power forward, very different. I'd rather pay up at small forward than power forward because of the construction of my lineups here. So I'm going to have quite a bit of LeBron. What say you? I know you're going to be like, no.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I mean, nothing wrong with LeBron. It's just like if Davis plays, I want Davis a lot, like as much Davis as I can get. And I don't want much of it to turn into LeBron. So there's just still so many mouths on the Lakers where, clearly LeBron's still productive. We saw him, play really well in that game in his last game against Minnesota. But it's just I'm less confident that LeBron is going to go out and consistently, be a fantasy point per minute, monster, because there are just so many guys that can pass the ball, so many guys that can score for that team. Whereas Davis, he's the show in New Orleans whenever he plays.
For sure. Yeah, look, I totally get it. If they were just at forward, I would expect to have more Anthony Davis than I would LeBron.
Right.
But because of the split on FanDuel and the firm nature of their positions, it just kind of changes the equation a little bit. I have an easier time getting to other things I like at power forward than I do at small forward. So yeah, I'm going to have a lot of LeBron. We have him projected right now. This will be a good example. Now we could circle back to where we were. We have LeBron projected for 10% ownership on FanDuel. I got 50 on my first crunch. I won't have 50. And by cutting LeBron from 50% to, let's just say 32 maybe, that allows me to get more Durant, and then subsequently we'll get a little bit of Anthony Davis, because I still want to have the big dudes from a scoring potential, but it'll prioritize LeBron and then trickle down economics get me AD.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's it for me there.
Um,
How much JaVale do you want at 5,700? Because it's probably a lot.
yeah, I was just pulling that up. I am actually surprised how much he played against Minnesota. I was not high on him that game because I thought with Ingram being back, you would get Kuzma going back to playing backup center, and McGee would kind of be capped around like 26 minutes. But that was not the case at all. So yeah, 5,700 on DraftKings for McGee. It's just yet another center that I am going to like and be trying to find a way to get into my lineups.
He's 7,000 on FanDuel, but I'll still get some. 5,700 on DK is just too cheap. This is not a DFS question, but Jason Kelly in chat said, did LeBron actually think the Lakers would be good? I honestly thought that the Lakers supporting cast was better than what he had in Cleveland last year. Is this just a time thing? Like they're just not gelled yet? Or was I underrating parts of Cleveland?
No, the Lakers are better. The Lakers supporting cast, to me, it's clearly better than Cleveland.
Okay.
The problem is that they don't fit that well with LeBron.
Right.
I think. And I think it's also a gelling thing. I mean, even when he went to Miami, we saw them kind of suck at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think that's certainly something. But then Cleveland, they weren't very good, but you at least had Kevin Love, who is good, but he can shoot. You had a couple of shooters on that roster. Here, it's like Kuzma, KCP, who's not even playing,
No.
and a bunch of guys that not only are they not good shooters, they're just downright bad shooters. It's a really weird mix of guys, but as far as talent goes, I think they're more talented than Cleveland was.
Yeah. Okay. We're on the same page then. That makes me good. Makes me happy. Brandon Ingram, 7,100 on FanDuel, 6,300 on DK. I'll have them.
Yeah. I can't get it to load on Popcorn Machine, so I'm looking on NBA rotations. I'm guessing Ingram had foul trouble against Minnesota because he played a really short second quarter rotation, and then he played 1.5 minutes in the third quarter. So I'm guessing that he was in foul trouble or something.
Let's find out. His name? Brandon Ingram. Let's type again in the Basketball Reference. I want to see the game logs. Might not tell the full story, but at least I'll know. Yeah, he had 5 fouls in the game, so by all accounts, he was probably in some foul trouble.
Okay, so that's worth noting if you're gonna just look at the game log and be scared because he played 20 whatever minutes. Yeah, so I think Ingram is perfectly fine. He's another one, I don't love him just because there's guys priced around him that I expect to have higher usage and be more involved. He, I think, takes a hit playing alongside LeBron so much because his facilitating isn't as necessary. But I still think he has a ceiling. The guy from the Lakers I'm really interested in on DraftKings is Lonzo at 5K. Not that I'm confident that he has a good game, but I just think that he still has the ceiling to destroy that price tag, and nobody's going to play him.
6,100 on FanDuel, 5,000 on DraftKings. I would certainly be playing him. The minutes concern me.
Oh yeah, me too.
Bad.
Everything about the spot, everything about him and this team concerns me. But
you think no one will play him?
I don't think so. I mean, people already think that he sucks at basketball.
So what you're saying is you assume our ownership projections are off a bit?
I don't know what's it at.
25?
There's no chance he's 25%.
I would agree with you. But
yeah.
I found it interesting when I saw it. I'm on your side on this one. 5K is just too cheap though. Much like
Right.
it's the Jeff Teague treatment. He's just simply priced below where he should be,
Right.
and it seems like people are reacting to that.
I wouldn't touch Lonzo in cash games because there's so much volatility in his minutes and in his role when he's on the floor. Whereas someone like Teague at the same price point, or someone like Rubio, you know what they're going to do and you know how many minutes they're going to play. But in tournaments, that's the kind of stuff that you should embrace. Like, does Jeff Teague have a higher ceiling against the Jazz than Lonzo does against the Mavericks, when we know that there will be some games where Lonzo plays, like 33 minutes? There will be other games where he plays 26.
Yeah,
But just in terms of a ceiling and what can win you a tournament, I think Lonzo has the higher raw ceiling than, like a Jeff Teague against Utah.
absolutely. Kuzma 6,500 on FanDuel, 6,100 on DK. I'm gonna have some on FanDuel. Do you have any interest?
Yeah, I like him. I wish he was. I'm still trying to figure out what they were doing with their rotations in that game, but it doesn't look like he got any backup center minutes, which again sucks. Like, I really liked when that was happening,
Yeah.
but it also makes sense. So I mean, against Minnesota, you're talking about Karl-Anthony Towns and Gorgie Jang. Against Dallas, you have DeAndre Jordan, but then Dwight Powell. I could certainly see Kuzma getting minutes at the 5 against Powell.
Yeah, Kuzma's gonna struggle big time against Gorgeous Dong and Cat.
Yeah. So that could have certainly just been a matchup thing, and we see it go back to the normal rotation tonight.
We do need to talk about my favorite non-LeBron play on FanDuel for the Lakers. Josh Hart. 5,100 on DraftKings. 4,500 on FanDuel. I think he's a really nice tournament play.
Yeah, I think it makes sense on FanDuel. I don't have interest on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if we assume the DraftKings price is correct, he'd be 6 something on FanDuel. So 4,500 is just it's an efficiency.
Yeah,
it's an inefficiency.
I think he got extra minutes because of Ingram foul trouble in that game. But
agreed.
Like 4,500, there's just not a ton of risk.
Yeah, I have him in for 26 minutes right now. I don't really love like trying to hash out what the minutes will look like for Lonzo, Rondo, and Hart. So
yeah,
I think this is something that you've talked about. Treat them all like they play close to their ceiling in minutes, and then cap their individual ownerships. Because it wouldn't shock me at all if Josh Hart got hot and played 30 minutes. They don't have any reason to stick to anything.
Right, exactly. And but it comes down to, is it likely that one of those guys has a good game and plays a bunch of minutes? Yes. And if you try and median project what they're going to do, you're just going to end up with none of those guys in tournament lineups, which is really, really minimizing your ceiling.
Yeah, especially in this game.
Right.
It's Lakers Mavs. So yeah, Josh Hart is the guy that I'm really kind of hitching my wagon to, and it's because he's just crazy, crazy cheap. What are we projecting his ownership at? 11%. Yeah, like I'll be miles above that.
It's basically the FanDuel version of the DK Lonzo play.
Exactly. Yeah, same thing. Let's check the Dallas side out here. DeAndre Jordan, 8,300 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DK. I don't have a problem with it, but it won't be a spot that I'm going.
I love it. He's one of my favorite centers on the slate.
Okay, let's take a peek.
I mean, I think you're going to get 34, 35 minutes in a fast-paced game where he can rebound. He's facing a very inefficient shooting team that's going to get up a bunch of shots, and he's just inexpensive. I really like him a lot.
Do you prefer DeAndre Jordan or Draymond Green?
DeAndre Jordan.
Okay. Do you prefer DeAndre Jordan or Ayton?
Really close, but I would slightly lean Jordan.
This game specifically, DeAndre Jordan or JaVale?
Jordan.
Okay, yeah. That's pretty much it for everybody that's like in that genre. At 8,300 on FanDuel is just a tough sell for me.
Yeah, especially like you don't get the double bonus there either.
Yeah, like I would rather just keep paying up and go to Jokic or Towns or Drummond.
Yeah.
Dennis Smith, 6,500 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DK, and crazy chalk. You want chalk Dennis Smith tonight?
Yeah, I'm fine with it, but
same.
Yeah.
This is a spot where I'll probably just stay with the field. I don't see the need to, like, he's at 27% right now. I got a lot of him. I don't see the need to go super heavy here because, it's the Mavs.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't want to be underweight on him because I love the spot and I like him. but it doesn't feel like a spot where I need to just like blow up my exposure to Dennis Smith and then cost myself a bunch of like Ricky Rubio and D'Angelo Russell and other point guards that I like. So just being right around the field and not you know going underweight on him, I think is where I want to be.
Yeah. Luka, 8,000 on FanDuel, which I definitely didn't say without gasping. 7,300 on DraftKings. Look, I like Luka a lot, but he's priced higher than I would like to have him.
I like him a lot. I hate that he's only a point guard again on DraftKings. It's really, really annoying.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do love the spot for him. I do really like him a lot. I expect that I'll still end up with I'll probably end up with more Luca than like Jamal Murray. Um, Probably more Luca than Zach LaVine, I would guess. I think a lot of my Luca ownership will also depend on Anthony Davis. If Davis is out and I end up giving Drew even more of a boost, that'll obviously cut into Luca at the same price. But if Davis is in, then I could see maybe having a little bit more Luca because I end up with a little bit less Drew.
We've got 4 guys at shooting guard on FanDuel. LaVine at 85, Drew at 83, Donovan Mitchell at 82, Luka at 8,000. I have miles and miles above the field of Mitchell right now, but Mitchell, Holiday, LaVine, all projected with the same ownership. Luka at 3%. When I readjust Donovan Mitchell, it's going to distribute a little bit to LaVine, Holiday, and Luka. I can get to 6. I can lock in 6% Luka if I want. Go double the field there. Still get a little bit of trickle to those other guys, but there's no chance that I'll have any sort of volume of Luka Doncic tonight on FanDuel at 8,000.
I kind of prefer him over all those guys, just because he does more than score. Like Mitchell's scoring dependent. LaVine is, I mean, I guess he gets so much usage, it doesn't really matter. But like Luca, I think has been running bad in the assist department all season long. This is a spot where I think he has potential to have a real like breakout game in that regard. But then also like he gets usage and he can rebound. I don't know. I just think this is a game where Luca could just go nuts.
I assume you prefer Drew if AD is out to Luka.
I think it's really close, but I would give the slight edge to Drew. If Drew were projected for a ton more ownership, though, I would be fine like kind of flipping it.
Yeah, if Luka's at 3%, he's a very nice tournament play.
Yeah, I'm just really, really high on Luka going forward because I just don't think that he's actually really performed up to what we're going to see from him yet.
Well, we have another highly owned Dallas guy coming up next. Harrison Barnes, 5,900 on FanDuel, 5,500 on DK. I have a lot of Harrison Barnes. What are your thoughts on Harry Barnes?
Yeah, I like that a lot. Ford, we've talked about other than the high end, it hasn't really been a position that I've loved a lot of guys at. I've loved a lot of centers and guards. But Barnes here, at a very reasonable price tag, he's playing his full minutes again. It's a nice spot against the Lakers where there are plenty of guys for him to defend. There's, it's a fast-paced game. Yeah, I expect that he'll be one of my higher owned guys.
Oh.
Like I would rather play him than Paul Millsap.
He's a little chalky right now, which is giving me some concern, but I'll be at least with the field on Barnes. Any interest in Wes Matthews or Barea or Powell?
Matthews, yes, not the other two. Matthews just still playing big minutes, fast-paced spot where there's more possessions. He's still cheap too. He's only 5K on DraftKings. It's pretty easy to see him going out and giving you, 6 to 7 times his salary on DraftKings. The other two, though, I mean, Barea basically is just playing backup point guard minutes at this point. We're not seeing his like 24-minute role that we had seen in the past where he was still kind of valuable. Dwight Powell, again, if he had a path to minutes, then great, but he's basically just the DeAndre Jordan backup.
Wes Matthews, 4,900 on FanDuel, so $100 cheaper. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's a really nice price. I would rather play him than Josh Hart.
I would rather have Hart. I would rather have Hart. I think there's more upside in Hart.
I think there's more in Matt. Like, I think that even if Hart hits 30 minutes, he's still playing like 5 minutes less than Matthews.
I just have Hart as a better player.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anywhere for Wes Matthews to go up from a time perspective. Whereas I have them relatively close, but I have Josh Hart playing 6 less minutes.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense then.
There's room for him to step into additional volume, hopefully.
Yeah, that makes sense. To me, it's like the way I'm thinking of it. Matthews, I think, plays about 34, 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Hart probably plays like mid 20s. He has the potential to play like 30, but even then, like on that team, I have trouble expecting Hart to produce outproduce Matthews by enough to make up for like a 5 minute difference, even when he does get his kind of high end of run.
Okay. It's close for me either way, and I have a similar amount of both. So what we're talking about is basically a coin flip. Let's close it out. Suns and Spurs. Suns 106.25 implied total. Spurs 113.25. 7-point favorites in Phoenix. We'll start on the Phoenix side. It's just a sea of punt plays outside of DeAndre Jordan, 8,100. Yeah, DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Ayton, 8,100 on FanDuel, 7,100 on DK. I know you love him. I have 0. And we're projecting him for 7% ownership on FanDuel right now. I don't expect to have any. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the price tag on DraftKings is too cheap at 7,100. It's a Spurs defense that is not good anymore, and Aiton is someone who should see a usage bump without Devin Booker. There's more opportunities for him to play make and then facilitate. He's obviously a good rebounder, so I just think that the price tag is too cheap for him in this spot. I prefer DeAndre Jordan by a little bit, but I think it's really, really close. And yeah, I mean, if you go and look at the last game they played where Isaiah Cannon, was out, Booker was out, you had Elie Okobo lead the team in touches, then Ryan Anderson, then DeAndre Ayton with 64 touches in that game. I think that he's just really clearly involved in this offense, and those guys being out doesn't hurt.
I'm nervous that Ayton gets into a little bit of foul trouble here. Not that makes my decision or changes anything that I'm looking at on the screen, but I got none of him, and when I think about it, I'm comfortable with it. Certainly could perform, and 7,100 on DraftKings is a nice price. 8,100 on FanDuel. I'm either going all the way up or all the way down. I don't really love the middle tier of center today.
Yeah, I think 8,100 on FanDuel, it's probably tougher. It would be tougher for me to get there than 71 on DraftKings. He kind of just really stands out.
Yeah. TJ Warren, 5,100 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DK. I got none. Do you have any interest in TJ Warren?
Not a ton. I mean, it is, again, it's a Spurs team that I like taking guys against, but I just have trouble finding the minutes for TJ Warren.
And I assume we're on the same page. No Trevor Ariza.
Yeah, probably not.
Josh Jackson, Isaiah Cannon, Bridges, Okobo, Ryan Anderson. These are guys that I get as punts that pop up. Josh Jackson at 4,700 on DK is not appealing, but still potentially in play. Clearly a different player for 3,700 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, Josh Jackson, he's someone I'm end up digging into more throughout the day and talking about on the deeper dive later. I've been playing a ton of him the last couple of games because with Devin Booker out, he should be taking on, should be getting more usage and should be facilitating more based on what we saw last year. But the addition of DeAndre Ayton and then Elie Okobo touching the ball a ton, it's something I'm going to have to dig back into and see how much I should really be adjusting Josh Jackson's rates. So I still think that I'll probably end up with a decent amount at 4,700 on DraftKings just because the opportunity's there and because the Spurs are really, really, really bad in transition. And that's the one spot where Josh Jackson has always been good is if you can just, let him straight line run the floor to the rim, he's pretty good. And that, plays to his strengths. But I probably have been over projecting him a little bit just based on the fact that, how he's utilized this year compared to last year.
Okay. Okobo, 3,500 on FanDuel, 3,700 on DK. Yeah, I'm gonna have some of them. He hit my 15% ownership cap on low salary guys on my first crunch, and I'm gonna go that way because there's too much opportunity, and he's priced at the bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of always hate going to punts like this after they have a big game when we don't have any sort of sample size of what to expect from them, but the stuff Lofty was texting me this morning, like he touched the ball in that last game, Okobo led the team with 90 touches. Ryan Anderson was second with 18. So you had 90 touches for Okobo. You look at his passes, he received 81 passes, which next on the team was Ryan Anderson at 39.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, so he was getting the ball back. He had 11 potential assists. He was just absolutely dominating the ball in that game. So that combined with a Spurs defense that I do like to target, a $3,700 price tag, I'm going to end up just eating chalk on him and playing him.
Same. 3,500, just hard to ignore on FanDuel. I'll have a little bit of all of these guys, but I don't have hot takes on it. They're all sub 4K guys on FanDuel. You're playing them because they're going to get minutes, and they're dreadful. So some of these guys are going to be awful.
Yeah.
Spurs side, and then we'll get out of here. It's going to be quick for me. DeMar DeRozan is $9,700 on FanDuel, $9,500 on DK. I can safely guarantee that I will have absolutely no DeMar DeRozan. Last time I did this, he went for like 900 fantasy points, and I fully faded him on a show. So
yeah, I haven't really been playing him, but I mean, the assists and the usage obviously have been there. One thing that I will point out is, so he has a 36.4% assist percentage this year, which obviously is through the roof, like absolutely ridiculous. I have him as one of the guys who more than anyone is outperforming his expected assist numbers. I created an expected assist percentage based on like potential assists, and because assist percentage obviously is dependent on guys actually making shots, and I don't want to be over projecting guys because their teammates have been hot, or under projecting them because their teammates haven't been hitting shots. So DeRozan has a 36.4% actual assist percentage this year. I have him at 26.3% expected assist percentage, which obviously is still really good. But when you're talking about him being priced for the performances that he's been giving us, I think that he's probably a little bit overpriced.
yeah, for sure. He's 9,700 on FanDuel. I get that he had 60 points in 3 of these games. In those 3 games, he played 45 minutes, 39 minutes, and 43 minutes. That is a tough thing to expect here. He's not playing 40 minutes against the Suns. What has to happen for that to happen? 3 overtimes?
The game stays close.
Yeah. But even still, like, I'd be very surprised if Pop keeps running him out for 40 at a clip.
Right. Like, I've been projecting him for like 38 minutes a game.
Yeah. I'm going to have a hard time going much higher than that. He played 43 minutes 2 nights ago against Dallas. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts.
And one of those games was the Lakers overtime game.
Antoine Murphy says if that was a different name other than DeRozan at that price and just looked at the box score, he would be a lock. That's literally what's happening here. He is just a name. I'm only going by the box score. I got 0 DeMar DeRozan. I don't give a shit what his name is. It doesn't know that when I crunch him.
Yeah, I mean, when I put in like his usage and his minutes and his expected assist percentage and everything, like the number I get just doesn't put him in lineups.
Right. Yeah. I have him, my model already with bumping him up for his changes, 7% higher than his raw points per possession number. I can't bump him much further than that, and I'm still not going to get him. He's just simply too expensive. $9,700 for DeMar DeRozan is insane. You need him to play those minutes. If he plays 33 minutes like he did against Indiana when the game wasn't close, he'll never hit that number. He just won't.
Yeah, and I agree with your point. Like, you can't project guys for like 43 minutes. Like in his case, I'll project him for 38 or 39.
Yeah.
I can't go, 43 minutes on anyone.
No, not at all. Especially on the Spurs. They could sit him tonight at 10 o'clock and I wouldn't even be shocked. Aldridge, 8,500 on both sites. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, like he's
the chalk play on FanDuel, and I don't have him.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. Like 26.5% usage this year, second on the team to DeRozan. Leads the team. Sorry, second to Rudy Gay and Gasol in rebounding percentage. Obviously doing a bit of everything. 11.6% expected assist percentage is nice as well. So yeah, I think he's fine. It's just at center stacked, so I don't plan on playing him there on DraftKings. Power forward, if Davis is out, I think I probably end up with more Aldridge.
We have 43% ownership on Aldridge on FanDuel, and I got 1. on my first crunch. He won't be there for me. Antoine Murphy with another hot take. If DeRozan is expensive, then Curry is no way a play, and DeRozan has to do more. Oh boy. No. I don't think you. I mean, I assume you're on the same page here. You would play Curry significantly more than DeMar DeRozan today.
Probably not.
$300 separate from each
Probably
other on
not.
DraftKings.
DeRozan, I think, just does more. Like, I don't know. I think that
I'm interested in this now.
I think that it's really close. Like I have Curry with like a 2.5% lower expected assist percentage, basically the same usage rate, and basically the same rebounding percentage. So I think it's really close. I think DeRozan does play more minutes.
Okay.
I think they're both guys that, for me to get much of them, it's going to be me saying I don't want 0% of these guys, and I need to like bump them up and force them in.
Gotcha. You a gay guy tonight?
He's fine. Like the minutes have been there. Rebounding's there, gets enough usage. Pulling up his price now, I hadn't even noticed what it was. 6,100 is kind of steep on DraftKings. I don't think there's a ton of excess value there anymore, so I probably won't end up with much.
Okay. Anybody else for the Spurs?
No.
That'll do it. Let's hit the positions quickly. Give me your favorite things. Point guard on DraftKings.
You can go first.
Oh, I will go first. I'm going to have quite a bit of Curry. Dennis Smith. Oh God, man, so much of this is just like, it's fine in a GPP. Like Murray, Russell, Teague, Rubio. Like, I don't know how to really distinguish that. So we'll say Curry, Dennis Smith, Ish Smith, Elliot Kobo. That's it. That's the only confidence I have.
Yeah, my stuff's still taking forever to load, but Drew, Murray, Teague, Rubio, Doncic, Smith, Russell.
Shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, Drew Holiday if AD is out, Wes Matthews, Monty Morris, Josh Hart, Frank Jackson. Woo.
Yeah, Holiday, Levine, Mitchell, Hardaway, Harris, Wes Matthews. Oh, I forgot Elliot Kobo at point guard too.
Sure. Small forward, LeBron, Harrison Barnes, Jay Crowder. That's it. Small forward's kind of gross today.
Yeah, LeBron, Kevin Durant. I do like I like Durant for 200 less, or sorry, 2,000 less on DraftKings.
Durant has twice as much expected ownership than LeBron right now on FanDuel.
That's interesting.
And the same as Mirotic.
Oh wow. Jabari Parker, Karis LeVert, Harrison Barnes, I like a ton.
Power forward, Blake Griffin, Draymond Green, Millsap, Kuzma, Josh Jackson, clearly. That's it.
Man, power forward. Oh, Anthony Davis, Mirotic, Randall, Crowder if Favors is out, Kuzma,
Okay.
Barnes already mentioned.
Center, Jokic, Drummond, Towns, JaVale.
Jokic, Drummond, Jordan, Ayton, Gobert, McGee.
There we go. 1 hour, 59 minutes, and counting. We're going to get out of here just under 2 hours. Love this show. I really do. It's fun to do. Deep dive will be out later this afternoon. Shout out to Laffy. Deeper dive show, 5 o'clock. Adam and Laffy breaking down the slate again after all the news comes in. Be Chris and Eddie going live before lock from 6 to 7. We'll have slam dunks out. We'll have switch and hedge out. We'll have all sorts of stuff. Alex's rankings, ownership projections are already out. If you want to sign up, promo code NBA Strategy gets you 7 free days, including packages with Fantasy Cruncher. So check it all out. Check out my intro to Fantasy Cruncher video from yesterday. Adam, any other plugs?
Nope. Deeper dive show at 5 with Lofty.
There you go. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Like and subscribe. We would really appreciate it. And we will talk to you again, he and I, Friday morning. Bye, everybody.